Hello everyone and welcome back to ReplayWorks and welcome back to a deck profile. So this is going to be interesting. This is a weird theory that I have after staring at these cards long enough that the Academy shell can work with any top end. So that is my thesis for this deck profile and probably a subsequent set of other decks that I'll be trying out as we wait for set 2. But before I get into this, just a quick reminder, if you do like this content, if you are enjoying the deck profiles we put out, some of the gameplay at our locals, and the replay reviews especially, for just knowing what the meta is week on week, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We are approaching 350, 400, and it really would mean a lot to me that we get to these numbers and keep up this momentum, since I do enjoy this game. I literally build and rebuild decks based on weird ratios I think of that might work. I have different ideas, and the unfortunate part is that aside from doing these videos and talking about it during the week, the only time I can play is on the weekend. So I just can't get enough of this game, time permitting. I wish I could play this more, but just again, like, subscribe if you do enjoy this. It means a lot. But without further ado, let's talk about what the hell do I mean by the Academy shell, right? So looking at the Academy cards, they are unique in the sense that they run around. They're the only thing that really cares about what's in your discard pile, aside from Shark Galgug. They care about the number of commands you play, right? And they are a very command-heavy focus, right? Most of their top ends do involve counting the number of cards, commands that are in the graveyard, or getting back cards from your trash, right? Sorry about the graveyard slip. That's just like a Yugi thing that's ingrained in me at this point. But the way I see it is that every single Academy card that is good is a link unit. And I'm a huge fan of being able to link at level 3, being able to have link units that can come out with the pilots for 3 costs, which means that when you're at level 6, you're eventually just going to be able to plop down 2 link units at the same time, which is good in terms of the sense that you get to push for a lot of damage, right? Now, aside from Gundam Lifrit, right, that's just probably the best blocker in the game at this point. Demi Trainer, Darablade, Michaelis, right? These 3 are all link units, with Demi Trainer being for only Choo-Choo, which is fine because this is a command pilot, and we're okay with those. The rest of these are generic Academy traits, which again link with Iron Fist Discipline for Choo-Choo Link, or Suletta herself, which means that Iron Fist can be done early, Suletta can be done at level 4. And from here, I set out to say, well, let's trim this down. I've tried playing Academy Aggro, the one that Grits and Gravy played on the Eagle's Nest webcam. I've tried to see how that can work. I played with Sword Strike. It was nice, but I also felt like there's a lot of cards that did, I would say, hurt the deck, or rather it makes it harder for the deck to function in terms of a deck that has contingency plans, right? Because the deck isn't just Unga Bunga swing, because it does rely on command cards, right? And there's no command cards really in the game that say deal 1 damage to your opponent's shield, right? So we don't have that. We have cards that either let you draw or mess with combat, and I think these are probably the best examples of the best commands in white. Overflowing Affection is probably the best command in the game. But Unforeseen Incident is a card that people don't really play around, right? It's one of those cards that even I've got with it at tournaments, where you think you're doing a really good trade, and then they play Unforeseen Incident, and you're the one that loses your unit, while their unit probably takes no damage or 1 damage, right? Iron Fist Discipline is kind of the same thing. It helps you mitigate the early rush and protect your guys, or a lot of level 4s don't have that much attack anyway. I think they curve out around 3 attacks, so depending on what the matchup is, it's actually pretty good. So with these commands, and with Suletta, which I think is fantastic as well, because Suletta does help you set up for letting you have that 1 extra resource so you can play your action cards of your turn. The rest of these, right, the units that exist in Academy are freaking incredible. And let's have a comparison, right? Rezo is a card. Do I have it on me? No. All right. Rezo is a card that's a 4/3 stat line for level 3 and 2 costs, right? Now let's look at our comparison pieces. Rezel is a vanilla, does not have any effects, and is not a link unit. Darrowblade and Michaelis. Darrowblade loses 1 HP, but gains a deployability that lets you just essentially destroy, big air quotes, a 1/1 token, or the 3/1 token that gets spawned off Char, right? And it has, as of course, a link unit, right? So to me, that losing that 1 HP means that I still keep the 4/2 stat line, which will trade with Lifrit if needed, but it will also, if I time it right, will be able to disrupt a rush player, because everyone's playing, a lot of people are playing Corsica base now. It does stop that strategy, right? Now, Michaelis. Michaelis, I think, is one of those cards that involves a lot of setup. You need to make sure that you have 4 commands to get the stat bomb, blah, 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 right? Then it becomes a 4/4, which is insane because it only costs 2, and it's a link unit. In this case, again, compared to Rezo, it's a 3/3 stat line, which I think is very fair. Like even Rick Dom is a 3/3 stat line, but it's not a link unit, but it has breach, right? So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off. Michaelis has the potential to become a 4/4. And the way the game works is that if you are able to, let's say you had 3 actions on your turn, right? And then your opponent attempts to attack into it, and then you play that 4th action card, or a 4th command card during the action phase. Now he gets the stat bomb, and you get to pretty much win combat that way. And I think that's one of those trick plays that will make or break the turn, especially if you need that extra +1 attack to get rid of their unit, because if they're trying to not trade, but they're trying to live at 1, this will absolutely destroy that plan, and vice versa. You will also probably live in exchange. So I think these two here, just from what their effects are, they are generically good effects. The fact that they link with Suletta, which I think is a fantastic pilot because it gives a 1/2 stat line and not a 2/1 stat line, which is more common in like Kira, Amuro, all that stuff. It does increase their livability, survivability, because it'll become, let's see, 5/4, and then at base it'll become a 4/5, and then eventually a 5/6. And that to me means like these stat lines are incredibly strong, right? Now on the low end we have the Choo Choo Demi Trainer. Realistically, that's just there as your turn 2 drop if you go first, just so you can start filtering out your hand, so you can dig for more pieces and get rid of, like, let's say double copies. Because sometimes when I play this deck, sometimes I see like double Darrowblade early or double Michaelis early. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm okay getting rid of the second copy of this card depending on like what my next card that I draw is, right? So, and last but not least, the base, right? The 13 tactical training testing sector. I think this card is probably underutilized. Because we're not playing blockers, I can't play Archangel. I don't want to play Kusanagi because it costs 2. So realistically, this is probably the only viable base for white. But it's okay because, again, we have 12 Academy units. And if I don't have an Academy unit on the field, then I'm pretty sure the game has gone wholly wrong. But the fact is that it also, if you have an Academy unit, you rest it to be able to give something on your opponent's field -1 AP for the turn, which means that if they swing at you with little 1/1 weenies or the 1/2 Zaku, it allows you to pretty much free destroy them because they're going to have 0 AP. It also allows you to kind of manipulate it where you can live at 1 HP or 2 HP, so it's a little bit more advantageous, right, for you if you're trying to clear their board and they went a little bit too aggressive with the lower cost guys. For example, they spawn with a 2/2 vanilla, GM, Zaku Mariner, whatever. Then you can play the testing sector and use Darrowblade to kill it, and you'll live at 1. It's better than trading into a 2/2 is my thesis on that one. So I just put it at 3. I am a big proponent of just playing 3 bases sometimes. I like playing low bases because I'm not trying to stall out the game, so I'm trying to make sure that the game ends. So that's just how I always view deck building. I never really want to max it out. It's kind of one of those things where I'd rather keep the other 10 commands than play the 4th base. All right, so that's the Academy shell. This shell most likely will not change based on any other deck that I would try this out with. Maybe at the most it would be Gundam Aerial rebuild, because it's a level 6. It gets you back the command card from your graveyard or discard pilots less than level 5 or less, which is most of them at this point. And it does link with Suletta, so it's one of those things where it does help. It's like a big top end for the white side. In this deck, I don't need that because I already have a level 6 that you've probably been staring at this whole time. If I was playing a deck that didn't have a level 6 top end, like say, I don't know, Shenlong, yeah, maybe I'll play it there as like, this way it doesn't clash with that slot. But now let's bring it down to the other half of this deck. The half that I will free flow as much as needed to test my ridiculous theory that I'm just going to keep this in the deck, right? It's the Wing Gundam package, right? And I'm playing Bird Mode, I'm playing Wing Gundam Zero, Hero Yui, and Path to Victory Defeat. I think Hero Yui is probably one of the dumbest, dumb in a good way, pilots in the game, because if you link with him, he is essentially a 3-2 bonus, which is quite relevant, depending on what the matchup is, because let's say, for example, even if you pair this with Bird Mode becomes a 5-4. You can do that like on turn 3 if you just get rid of the X resource, of course, because we're not trying to ramp. It's a 5-4 not early in the game. It's going to break bases. Your opponent's gonna have to use another link unit to trade into it. It kind of like it feels bad playing against it when you have to stare at that stupid 5-4. But aside from that, the regular Wing Gundam, the Star Deck one, becomes a 7-7. Wing Gundam Zero, oh god, he becomes an 8-9. Yeah, 8-9. And there's very few things that can deal 9 damage. You have to be specifically playing Buster Gundam and specifically waste. Oh my god, that's like what? You have to waste both the effects of Buster Gundam, so it has to be paired, and then you have to use a unit that has at least 3 AP. And that's basically banking on if I don't have one of the 2 combat tricks in my deck, right? Just to deal with Big Wing Gundam Zero. Now, there is a little bit of like, I don't know, mis-synergy, I guess, between the Wing Gundam Zero and the fact that I'm playing like little Weedies. That's fine. That's just like, this is like more of a contingency plan. I'm really here to play Star Deck Wing Gundam because I think this card's fantastic in terms of being able to attack untapped units, being able to breach 5, which breaks through every single base except for the 06s, right? But the thing that ties the Wing package, and why I decided to go with the Wing package over any other package, is Path of Victory Defeat, because it is a really good command card. And the way the numbers work is that you can play all 3 of these cards in the same turn, just because of how like the cost and everything is. So if for example you don't have a Suletta or anything, you have no board, and you're missing one of these 2 pieces, you can still free play Path on your level 6 turn to dig for that last piece that you're missing, and that allows you to essentially, you have 7-7 that breach at this point, so they're going to destroy something, and you get to try trade with another thing on the next turn. So that's why I really like Path of Victory Defeat. It's mostly going to be the Wing, in this case, not Death Scythe, and probably Wu Fei. It's probably going to be either Hero or Wu Fei that's going to be swapped around for the builds, just to try out like different ways. But Hero has 3 different link units compared to Wu Fei. Wu Fei only has 2. A Duo has 3, I guess. But for me, this is where I want to start with, because I don't get a chance to play this card. I really want to just shove it in the deck and go at it. And that's like the point of the bottom end. The bottom end is supposed to be like, yeah, you have annoying stuff from the low end, and it's cute. You got little 3 AP guys. You get the blocker. It's cool. And then the top end is once you hit turn 5, turn 6, you're supposed to just put down stupid strong haymakers that you probably dug through the whole game for, and that you have plenty of resource to work with, and plenty of combat tricks as well. And then of course, the fun thing that I always like to do is at the end of the game, or towards the end of the game, if your opponent's down to 1 or 2 shields, link unit them to death, right? And that's also like, again, everything here except for Lifrit is a link unit, and I am always a big fan of just playing decks that have that potential to burst out 2 link units towards the end game. It might not be good for my play style in long term, but for now it's kind of fun to do. Just catch people off guard and just play the big guys, right? But yes, that is the green-white Academy shell that I'm working on, and it's really just the Academy shell that gets stayed. Everything else in the bottom gets swapped out. So realistically, I could see myself doing something with like, I don't know, Amuro or stuff like that, right? Just depends on the pilot and depends on what if there is a good command that works, for the synergy of the decks. This one is probably the best one that lets me dig through my deck to get the pieces I need to try to end the game. So let me know your thoughts. I got a couple of gameplay on this one. Since I am testing this out, it's really more of a pet project while I try to commit to a deck to play for regionals. But I don't know. Like I think it's been pretty neat in like the few games I've had with it so far. So I do like it and did want to bring it to the channel just to, you know, show off there's some fun deck building that still exists in set 1 before we go into the meta of set 2, and that's going to be a whole new can of worms, which is I'm excited for. All right, so that's enough for me. If anyone here is curious, Decklist is going to be in the description. Try it out for yourself. Let me know how your thoughts are, and what improvements or cuts can be made based off what you think might be too much or too little. But yeah, let's see how we can improve this deck, right? All right. With that being said, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.